The power of the bug, Cochineal. That is one fantastic dye, and we're going to be looking at it here again today on Color Quest. Hi, this is Margaret Byrd, and welcome back into my dye studio as we are walking through the rainbow. We have been looking recently at Cochineal, which is a scale insect that lives on the nopalus cactus, or the prickly pear as you might know it. And it is known often as an ancient source of red dye. We looked at that a few weeks ago, but that's not the color that comes from Cochineal if you simply use it in a dye pot. Today, I'd like to look at that and show you the vibrancy of the Cochineal insect if we just let it work its magic in the dye pot. Let's go. So if you take a cochineal insect and you simply grind it in your hand, the color that you see is red. It is used across many different things beyond fiber dyeing, including food dye, as just one other place where you might bump into cochineal. When you introduce fiber to the carminic acid that is found in the cochineal bug, the color is not red. You have to shift the dye of cochineal using pH modifiers like we did. For example, in the acidic realm, you can take that to the red using cream of tartar. But if we just use it straight, it is a color that lives in the vibrant pink realm. So I thought, we skipped that. We didn't look at that. I don't think of pink as being on that Roy G. Biv rainbow, but I think it's important for everyone to know what a neutral, non-shifted cochineal actually looks like on fiber. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, over the last few weeks, I was working from a master dye pot that I made to work through several video tutorials. I am now out of that master dye pot, and so it's a perfect time for us to look again at how best to extract color from cochineal. You have the whole bugs, and you're going to want to grind those up in a mortar and pestle. You then can put that powder right into your dye pot, totally acceptable. In these videos, however, I've been putting them into a nut milk bag. You could use cheesecloth or muslin. It's just a way of separating out the potency of the powder itself from touching the fibers, which can leave additional marks. If you don't mind, all good. Now, because of the strength of the cochineal bug, as I've mentioned over the last few weeks, we are going to do short bursts of extractions, meaning that we're going to put it into a dye pot with a very little bit of water, heat it at a high temperature for a short amount of time, and then repeat that process several times. In today's video, we're going to do it until the water becomes almost clear. Then we know that we've taken as much dye out of those little guys as possible. You do not want to leave any dye behind. I worked on a cochineal farm in Oaxaca, and I got to watch the painstaking process that's necessary in order to actually raise and harvest the cochineal insect. So we want to use every little last bit. And the good thing is, it doesn't take a lot in order to make a really lovely pot of deep cochineal color. General rule of thumb is that if you want a nice dark color, you're going to want to use about 10% of the weight of fiber. You can go down to 3% or anywhere in between. You'll just get a lighter variation of this color. Today I'm going to measure at 10%, but I'm going to be doing it again across several weeks worth of fiber. So let's go ahead and measure that fiber for the next few weeks, and we'll make ourselves another pot. Fiber prep. Washed fiber is a must. If you're working with fiber like silk and wool, you're probably going to want to do this on the stovetop. You can do it with something strong like Synthropol, or you can use a washing powder if you want some really good cleaning. I often will just use a mild dish soap, but you have all of those options at your fingertips depending upon lots of things. If you are noticing that your fiber is not taking up color very well, it could be that it needs to be scoured better. So just know you have all of those options. Once you've scoured or washed your fiber, you're going to want to pre-treat it, and that is with a Mordant. It helps with the bond, will bring in deeper, richer colors. I feel like I should quiz you on this by now. Protein fibers use alum. That can be aluminum potassium sulfate or aluminum sulfate. For our cellulose fibers like cotton, aluminum acetate is probably the best version. You can also do a two-step process where you do a tannin soak first as a mordant, followed by an alum bath. That is a wonderfully strong bond for cotton and other cellulose fibers, and I think it might work better in this instance. However, I'm working with fiber that I already pre-treated a long time ago with aluminum acetate in terms of the cotton, so we're just gonna have to go ahead and use it. Although you see me going through these steps with you, I often try to prepare larger volumes of fiber with washing and doing the pre-treatment with mordants well in advance, so that I always have a stockpile of ready to go fiber. So if you're doing a lot of dyeing at home, I can strongly recommend trying to be more efficient and preparing your fiber in larger batches so that you always have it available if you decide you want to do some dyeing. So while we start this extraction process, I'm going to go ahead and put my fibers, which have already been washed and pre-treated with a mordant, into water. They're going to soak in that water so that they can best receive the dye when I put them into the dye bath. Now, let's get going on making that dye bath. I'm going to do it quick. Let's speed up the film and get going on that. So today's master pot is ready to go. I went ahead and did 4 extractions, and you saw on that last one, it barely had any pink left. So I've blended all of those together, and now I'm going to take a portion of that to work with today's dye session. Now the volume of liquid that you have in your dye pot is determined by how much fiber you're dyeing. So you will notice that I don't use a lot of volume of dye when I do my experiments here on Color Quest. The reason for that is because I have enough volume for my fibers to move around freely. That's all you need. Obviously, if you are dyeing a larger volume of fiber, you're going to need more liquid in your pot. That is only determined by that. It does not mean that your dye is going to be less strong. You are using the weight of fiber, dry fiber, to know how much of your dye matter you're going to use. That's what determines it, not the liquid. So in any event, don't be fooled by the small amount of liquid that I have in my dye pot. I'm using it because I just have a tiny bit of fiber. Your dye pot at home is probably going to be more filled. All right, fibers are good and wet. Time to go into that dye pot. You will note that I'm going to use a higher temperature for cochineal. It can withstand a higher temperature, and that's even recommended. So I'm going to be taking this up to just below a boil, and maybe even you'll see some bubbles occasionally. That's okay. When I worked with the dye masters in both Mexico and particularly Peru, we let that cochineal boil. So don't be scared of the temperature when you're working with this dye source. So let's get it in, and we will set it for approximately an hour, just like we do with most of our dyes. I'm then gonna let it cool in the pot because I like to do that. Gives a little extra time in the dye. And let's see what color emerges. And here you go. Look at these colors. Such vibrant pinks. Here's our silk, our wool, and even our cotton. It definitely took a deeper color than some of our other cottons have in the previous videos. And I think partially because this is the first batch that we made, and it's going to just have a lot of those cochineal color particles floating in it. So I am loving these colors. It's amazing how pink it is. Cochineal truly is a pink dye, but because of its pH sensitivity, it just is such a versatile dye to make all different colors. Gorgeous. So now we can add pink to our rainbow. That is some spectacular vibrancy there. You know what color it kind of reminds me of? It's very similar to the pink that you can get from working with safflower. That process is hard, but it has a kind of similar, very vibrant pink. You can go back and look at that video if you want to watch how to do that. It also plays around with pH shifts, and it's not that easy, but it works. So anyway, that's another similar pink to cochineal. This one's just so much easier. Just put it in the pot and boom, you've got yourself that vibrant pink. Now, we looked at cochineal in terms of the acidic shifts on the pH scale. We got red and we got orange. Next week, I would like to move into the alkaline realm. That's right, we're gonna get different colors if we start looking at shifting it into the base side of the pH. And I wonder if you can guess what colors we're gonna get. I'm not gonna tell you. You're gonna have to come back next Friday and see what we are up to. Have a great week, and thank you so much for being part of the Color Quest family, including things like food dye or the dye used in medicines. No.